Okay, it's 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you for joining. Here's the Deal. This is the Here's the Deal channel. This is a live stream. I appreciate you guys being here. We're going to talk tonight about a couple comments that Brandon Tatum made on a video that's entitled Black Community is Crying Out, Dems Don't Care. He makes some good points, and he makes some points where it kind of lends itself to, hey, we got to take some of your freedoms for the safety and security of the city that you live in. Let me ask you a question. What's more important, freedom or safety and security? Freedom or wealth? Freedom or what city you live in and how many police you got? I mean, because if you're willing to get rid of your freedom, if you're willing to get rid of your individual liberty for fill in the blank for excuses, then they're always going to make excuses. They're always going to come up with some kind of emergency to take away even more of your freedoms. I like this. There's a verdict in a case called Murdoch versus Penn, and the bottom line was no state shall convert a liberty into a privilege, license it, and attach a fee to it. I agree with that. I don't agree with it because it was a court case. I agree because they came to the fundamental conclusion that the most important thing is your freedoms, and you can't license it, you can't attach a fee to it, and it is not a privilege. It is an unalienable right. And I don't know if you know this, just a little trivia for you. Donuts used to be square. The reason they made them round is for officer safety. And that's one of the things that Brandon Tatum talks about in this video is officer safety. So, and again, I'm criticizing what Brandon Tatum says, not who he is. He used to be a former police officer, but apparently I've come in contact with a lot of former cops, and apparently they maintain the same mindset of, well, if things are real bad, I mean, real bad, man, that gives you the right to take away everybody's freedoms. He'll reference Terry v. Ohio without saying Terry v. Ohio. He says stop and frisk and acts like people who are against stop and frisk, that's a bad thing. And guys, I'm not for any kind of gang activity. I'm not for Democrat policies which make cities horrible. I'm not for Republican policies that take away more of your rights and your freedoms and more of your money and make the Republican cities terrible and load people down with rules and regulations and all this nonsense that makes us less and less free. So let's go ahead and get into this. I'm going to play this first part right here. If you have any questions, if you want to get my attention, do a super chat or whatever you want to do. And I'll try to, let me see. Let me make sure that I got the chat room up here. Okay, got a couple people in the room. I really appreciate you being here. The reason I'm doing this video, let me just preface it with this. The reason I'm doing this video is because I care about freedom. I care about the freedom of my family. I care about individual liberties. And I care about the fact that my sons and daughters, your posterity, even the ones who are unborn, have to live in this world. And if we keep giving away our freedoms because there's an emergency, because of public safety, oh my God, you got to give them up or everything's going to go to hell in a handbasket. Guys, then you might as well just lay down, construct your own gallows and build your own rope and hang yourself from it right now. Nothing is more useful to the state than the notion that its rule is justified, and they will use any justification to support that. So let's go ahead and go into some of this video. Let me play this first part right here, because like I said, there's some things that I agree with and some things that I don't.
There's a lot of times I say things that could be hyperbolic, right? I talk about the inner city communities. I talk about the hatred of some inner city groups, the hatred of police. But I will say this, the average person, I'm telling you guys, I grew up around this stuff my whole youth. The average person does not want or does not believe that police should not be around. The average person that live in these communities that these fake people claim that they care about, they want the police to be there.
You know what? That's true. I would say that's true. I would say the average person wants cops to be around. They don't want to be without cops. I'm talking about the average person. I'm not talking about the person who's in touch with what individual liberties are and how horrible it is when you lose them. I'm not talking about those people. I'm just talking about the average 15,000 hour indoctrinated individual who is in the public fool system, who was taught, hey, obey authority, cops are good, vote for politicians, stay in the hamster wheel, work until you die, and let them tax you to death from cradle to the grave. Those people are the ones who probably think it's a good idea to have a monopolized police force who can do things that you can't do. And if you did the same thing that some of these badged uniform criminals did, you would be justly punished because you've actually committed crimes. So I don't disagree with that statement. There are a lot of people in this world who are so far out in left field that they want a police force to protect them instead of pulling themselves up by their own bootstraps, tightening their belt, manning up, arming themselves, training themselves to be able to, protect their families with self-defense, hand-to-hand combat, weapons, get an understanding of how ammunition works and how to store it and all that kind of stuff. That right there is what most people won't do. Most people won't prepare. Most people won't train themselves and arm themselves and discipline themselves. They want somebody else to protect them and keep them safe. So I don't disagree with this statement right here.
There was a study done that said majority of African-American people that live in the inner cities want there to be either the same amount of police or more. Most people don't want there to be less police. Why? Because this is not fairy tale land. You're not going to see. This is the thing that's the problem with the white liberal. The white liberal has never really lived in the inner city. They've never been to a black community. In their mind, the black community is this safe utopia place where black people can go for refuge, and we all just get along in this little circle. And if we could just avoid white people altogether, somehow the world will be a better place for us. That is not true.
So he plays this left versus right paradigm, and this is pretty much a constant tenor of his content, is that he'll pit Democrat versus Republican. Sometimes he'll call out the Republicans, sometimes he'll criticize them, but for the most part, he's got this Republican platform. It's highly, viral. Every video that he puts out is viral. He's got 2 million or so or more subscribers now. He's grown like, hyperbolic in the last, 18 months or so. And it's because people like that antagonist protagonist thing. Holy cow. That is crazy right there. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say about that. Jeremy Trill just dropped a $200 super chat. That's crazy, man. My way to ask you to continue what you're doing. Wow. Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate that, man. That blows me away. I appreciate that support. We have to change our mindset here. It can't be this cop mindset. It has to be the mindset of freedom, or we lose everything. We literally lose everything. The colonists, when they looked at Britain, they were looking down the barrel of the most powerful army that had ever existed up to that point in time. And they go, screw it. You ain't taxing our tea. You're not going to put these regulations and stipulations on us. Go back and tell the king, your little kingy over there, we ain't going to do it. And if you keep trying to force us to do it, then come on, it's on. Our lives, our fortunes, our sacred honor, it's all on the line. Our integrity, our name, our reputation is on the line. I'm not giving it up for safety and security. You ain't putting a, whatever percent, it was a low percent tax on tea. You'd look at that and go, people in America today would go, that's all they were taxing the tea? God, I'd give my eye teeth to just pay those kind of taxes. Instead of going, how about I'd give my eye teeth to pay no taxes? That's where the colonists were standing. And you know what they would call those colonists today? The revolutionaries, the people who love freedom, they'd call them freaking right-wing extremists. So he plays this left versus right paradigm thing, and he muddles everything up because for the most part, a lot of things that the conservatives say about the liberals is true. But then they try to take the plank out of somebody else's eye, and they don't look at the tree, the log that's hanging out of their own eye. Don't you understand that your party is also controlled by the international banking cartel? Don't you understand that your guy that you put into office who stayed there for 4 years didn't do anything to lift a finger to get rid of the IRS and the Federal Reserve and the Department of Energy and the Department of Education and all these benefits to NASA and the Department of Homeland Security and TSA and removing the restrictions that actually cause us to be slaves on the land of the free, home of the brave? And it pisses me off that people cannot see something so simple, so fundamental, so elementary, and then they won't fight for it because they don't even know what they're fighting for because they're in this battle of left versus right paradigm. Republicans versus Democrats. Man, I'll tell you, you want to get popular on YouTube, you want to get popular on social media platforms, play that card. Play that team red, team blue card. You'll get popular really, really quick. Because you'll find yourself roaming around in the halls of Congress, chumming it up with, if you're on the left, AOC or Dianne Feinstein or Nancy Pelosi or Chucky Schumer, or on the right, you'll be yucking it up with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ted Cruz. That's how you get popular. But for some reason, the message that holds tyranny at bay isn't popular. You're not going to go viral by telling people that, oh yeah, did you know that the Department of Education, which runs 98,500 schools, public schools in this, the system, is actually propagating nonsense to short circuit your critical thinking so that you can be an easy to control slave. Now that's not going viral. So anyway, back to this. Let me just back it up a little bit.
A place for us. That is not true. That is the biggest lie on planet Earth. Black people are the biggest threat against black people. If only black people could move away from black people, we would probably be safer.
And what's kind of interesting about that is, if you look at some of these statistics, and I just pulled up some. I don't even have that. I don't even have that statistic up here. But what's funny is that a lot of what he just said there was true. If you look at some crime statistics, not just FBI, but just overall crime statistics from even, different pollsters, Quinnipiac and all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure there's some kind of underlying funding that doesn't work in our favor there. But if you look at some of these statistics, like he just said, like a black man just said, black on black crime is pretty much off the charts. But mainstream, fake stream, CIA infiltrated Operation Mockingbird media, especially leftist media, doesn't like to let you know about that for some reason. But the crime that's perpetrated most often by a lot of people, on a lot of people, is the law enforcement crime perpetrated on people they're supposed to be protecting and serving. And the right wing media, including independent media, which I would count him as sort of an independent media type personality, they don't want to admit that. They don't want to admit the fact that both parties are in the same bag, and both, as they fight against each other, it's like watching a World Wrestling Federation fight where you believe one person's the protagonist and one is the antagonist. That's the enemy and that's my hero right there. But at the end of the day, they go behind the curtain and they split the loot that they just made from the masses they just deceived into believing that what they were doing was real.
No, don't listen to me. Don't listen to me because I'm an Uncle Tom Coon sellout bootlegger. It's what they call me. Don't listen to me. Listen to a woman who live in the hood. Brought a film.
My eyes, I have not slept.
67-year-old Miriam Cintron and her neighbors live in a state of fear. They claim large gangs of young teens have been terrorizing their apartment building in the Bronx all summer.
Gangs are a problem, and they'll probably always be a problem. I lived in the high desert in Lancaster, California for about 7.5 years, and it was so bad that you would hear sirens all night, helicopters in the air all night, every night, constantly. There was, thefts, there was petty theft, there was, grand scale theft, there were shootings, there was murders, there was rapes, there was just crazy stuff going on all the time in Lancaster, California, which is still in LA County. So it was nonsense. I'm against gang activity, guys. Why? Because the members of the gang and the group itself does to others what they would not want to done to themselves. They violate the golden rule. They violate that. So what's the way to stop that? And I hate to use this little catchphrase that people will pin me for the NRA, but the NRA is just as much in the bag in anti-Second Amendment as anybody on the left, only they do it more deceptively. If you have any questions about that, I've got a whole thing that I did on Wayne LaPierre, who basically, the reason there's a NICS instant background check system is because of the NRA. The NICS instant background check system is decidedly anti-Second Amendment because it is an infringement. It's an infringement check system. But the way you get rid of these gangs, or at least minimize their potency, is when the gangs realize, hey, don't go in that neighborhood right there because you're probably not going to walk out. And if you do make it out, it's going to be in a body bag. What you do is you get together with all your neighbors and you don't go, oh gosh, okay, so if somebody breaks in, let's call 911. And then Frank over here goes, dude, we ain't calling 911. We'll call 1911. We'll call 357, but we ain't calling 911. These people ain't making it out of the house. What happened to personal empowerment? That's what's missing on this little thing that he watches, and what's missing, I don't know if he left it out because he forgot it. And I don't think that Brandon Tatum is against personal empowerment, but it looks like from the way he constructed this video right here, it looks like the better idea in his mind is, hey, we need to beef up the police force. We don't need to defund the police. We don't need to dehumanize or demoralize the police. We need to lift them up and glorify them. That's what's going to fix this problem. If you want to fix the problems in your neighborhood, then empower each and every individual in that neighborhood, and they're not going to be slim pickings. Do you think a purse snatcher is going to come at you when he knows that you could blow his kneecaps off, Granny? For one example, and it becomes, it spreads across the land like, don't go to that town right there. I can't remember, what is the town in, it's in Alabama where they actually, I'm not for this, but it's funny. They actually write into the law that every household is required to have a firearm. Does anybody remember the name of that town? If you do, put it in the chat room.
And it's getting worse.
Because the crime rate is really low in that town. You don't go, okay, we're not even stopping for gas. We'll ride on fumes to the next town, because that town right there, chances are almost every house has a firearm.
They came at us. They beat us. They broke that stick from that tree there to beat us with the wood. We don't have no body.
Miriam says they broke the pole from the tree.
Thank you, Hank. Kennesaw, Georgia has, or at least had, written in the law, every house is required to have a firearm. It's like, we don't play here in Kennesaw, Georgia.
Well, and turned it into a weapon.
Oh, we'll give you our guns in Kennesaw, Georgia. Bullets first.
Saturday night as she fell victim to their violence.
They were kicking me in my side. They were kicking me on this side. They was punching me in my back, trying to get my face, but I covered.
63-year-old Nydia Carrero says a group of young girls the same night slammed her to the sidewalk, dragged her, and pummeled her after she refused them entry into her building.
My God, I mean, doesn't that get all over you when you hear that? When you hear, especially when they're they're kids, and that's they hide. They're going to say this in this little article right here, is that they hide behind their youth and they expect, well, nobody's going to do anything to us because we're little kids. Guys, if you start harming somebody and you didn't have a good, and this all boils down to the home life. It all boils down to parenting. It all really boils down to, is there a father? Is there a stable father in that household who's holding things together? Because that makes all the difference in the world, according to studies. It really boils down to that kind of stuff. But then when you have this society who doesn't care about the life of their fellow humans in that society, hey man, drastic times call for drastic measures. And I'm not talking about giving away your rights. I'm talking about these people need to be taught a lesson. I think you know where I'm going with that.
To hang out in the hallway and smoke pot and
young or not,
mess up the building. They go in there with bikes in there half the time.
This is 1294 and 1295 East 169th Street in the Morrisania section of the Bronx. Most of the tenants here are elderly. They tell me they are being swarmed, beaten, and robbed by ruthless teens who have turned their apartment building into an oasis of lawlessness, and who apparently count on their youth to spare them.
To count on their youth to spare them. Oh, they ain't going to do nothing to me. I'm a 12-year-old. I'm a 15-year-old. I'm a 16-year-old. What are you going to do to me? Well, guess what we're going to do? We ain't taking you out to the woodshed because we live in the inner city and we don't have a woodshed. So I guess then, have you met my friend Samuel Colt?
As the adolescent...
I'm speaking as an elderly person who's getting their apartment broken in and their head bashed in by some would-be gang member.
Escalate the violence night after night. Residents are left bruised and traumatized.
It's a shame. And they are...
Look in my eye.
It's a shame.
It is a shame.
It is a shame.
It is, I agree.
They don't want us talking about this. They want us to think that the police are the problem in these communities. And
okay, so that's where I want to go with this. And wait till you hear some of the things that he says about, this Terry v. Ohio, and people are against stop and frisk. Look, desperate times call for desperate measures. No, you never give away individual rights, ever. You don't give it. And if the problem with the world is that there are evil people in the world, then the last thing you want to do in this world to solve that problem is give some of those people a monopoly on force and power where they can't be questioned. And they can hide behind their badges of qualified immunity. So let's listen to the rest of this right here.
And if we reimagine policing in America, somehow to make these communities better, that's not true. The lawlessness of young people are undeniable.
If you want to say lawlessness, if you want to talk about the criminal activity, the criminal activity of some of these young people is absolutely undeniable. How do you stop it? Do you beef up your police force? The same police force that's going to beat you up and shoot your dog and flashbang your child in that crib for no reason? Oh, sorry, we had the wrong house. We meant to go to this guy's house because we heard he had a ghost gun. These are the same cops who will arrest you because Kathy Hochul in New York said, hey, no more ghost guns. Hey, you can't, no more concealed carry. You can't conceal carry in Times Square. And if we do find you with concealed carry in Times Square, even though you're not harming anybody, you're not threatening to harm anybody, you're not foisting any criminal activity on anybody, but because the politicians told us, those same cops will turn their minds off and become the order followers that bring tyranny into the world. So if the problem is that we have evil, you don't want to give some of those evil people an unbridled monopoly on force and power, because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I don't know why people don't understand this. It's a very simple concept. And he's sitting in front of a blue line flag. You can see that blue trim behind him. I don't know if you can see. Let's see. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a thin band where everything's grayed out on the American flag, but there's a blue line. I don't think you can see. Yeah, you can't see it. But anyway, yeah, you can kind of see it. See where my microphone is right there? See that band of blue? That's the thin blue line of tyranny. That's the fraternal order of police. We're going to watch each other's backs, and if we commit, crimes against humanity and crimes against the people we're claiming to protect and serve, and we're planting drugs on them, and it's on our body cams, then we'll turn our body cams off. Did you guys see, just a recent video from the armed fisherman where his life was in jeopardy because they pulled their firearms on this guy who's minding his own business, fishing with an AR-15 strapped on him. Everybody knows who this guy is and what he does. They know he's not a threat. They know he's out there exercising his Second Amendment, but they still put his life into danger. And then when they go to talk to their fellow cops, they turn off their body cams. They don't turn off the video, but they turn off the audio. That's walking in darkness. That's not interested in transparency. These are the people that we're talking about. They know they messed up. I wonder what they really said. I wonder if armed fishermen can get the body cam of the other cops who may not have turned off their audio devices and see what they really said. But when you're sitting in front of a flag that has a blue line on it, you're basically saying, hey, I support tyranny as long as it's the Republican team red tyranny, which is going to be better for American cities than the blue Democrat team tyranny. And, for all intents and purposes, when you look at it realistically, I would way rather live in DeSantis's Florida than, let's say, Mayor Beetlejuice Lightfoot's Chirac. I would way rather live in Florida. Way rather. But that doesn't change the fact that the same cops in Florida will take you down for a non-criminal act, just like the cops in Chirac will take you down for a non-criminal act. They're not really out there fighting crime. They're out there filling the coffers of the state. And this is stuff that we got to realize. So let me move along, because this is where he starts talking about, stop and frisk.
All you got to do is go to the Bronx. It ain't safe for you. These young people don't care nothing about nothing they talking about. They're not looking at Martin Luther King and drawing from his spirit to do the right thing. These people are deranged. They're out of control. They're fatherless, and they're a detriment to the community. When I was growing up, we had the hood, and then we had older people who come from old money, old black wealth. Doctors, lawyers, they were in the community first, and in the hood, and the gangs start taking over, and you have these older people who live there who are peaceful, and then they're in conflict because all of these young thugs are out here robbing, stealing, killing each other every day, drive-by shootings, and the older people who originally lived in these nice, previously affluent neighborhoods are suffering.
Yeah, and you can look at some, Jeremy, that's crazy, man. Another $100 super chat. Yeah, we are broken as a people. And we need to get our heads, all of us, we need to get our heads out of our collective asses. And I hope if Brandon Tatum sees this, and he's seen some of mine and he's called me an idiot and all that kind of stuff, but I hope if he sees this, he would be willing to have a dialogue. I'm not interested in debate. I'm not interested in debating anybody. We're way past the debate stage. We just need to have a dialogue. Is freedom important? How important is freedom? Should freedom ever be put on the chopping block? Should we ever give people the authority to do things that if we did them, we'd be thrown into jail? Should we get rid of qualified immunity? Is Terry v. Ohio something that we need to really, really take a look at? How important is this stuff to us? It better be supremely important because we're about to lose it all under this WEF, Great Reset, Fourth Industrial Revolution, you'll own nothing and be happy nonsense coming out of Davos. So we can't be divided, man. I want to repair bridges between these Republicans and the Democrats. I want to, if we can. You know, you're not going to be able to do that with everybody. I'm not pie in the sky thinking, oh, everybody's going to come along with this thing, but we've got to do something to where a massive amount of us say, that's it. There ain't no more. We are not voting. Voting sucks. It doesn't do anything but get us deeper into debt. And then there's more rules and regulations. Do you know how many federal codes, and we've talked about this, there are against owning a firearm? And we have a Second Amendment. They obviously don't care, but the clear 27 words in the Second Amendment. So here we go.
Same thing as Stop 6. Anybody go Google Stop 6 in Fort Worth? I went to school at Paul Ernst Dunbar in Stop 6. There's black folks that are older who are intelligent, who come from money, and they're stuck in the middle of these young thugs out here with no daddy, no guidance, and police can't stop them. And they will go to jail for 30 minutes and they out.
That's true.
That's not the way that most people want to live.
No, it isn't. I totally agree. He's saying some right on stuff here. That is no way to live. So if people are living like that, if communities of people are living like that, how do they get themselves out of that horrible situation? There comes a point where you got to start disobeying politicians and law enforcers, and you got to start doing the stuff that they say that you shouldn't do. And one of those things is to arm yourself. What was it? Jefferson said something like, his exercise is to go walking with his firearm. I'm totally paraphrasing that, but it's the context of what he said. As for me, my constant companion is my gun. Why do you carry your gun with you wherever you go? Because you care about your life, you care about the lives of your loved ones, and because you care about humanity, you care about anybody who might happen to be in your zone of influence. If you're in that convenience store, that grocery store, or stopping to get gas, you care about that. You care about the fact that there are evil people out there who, given the opportunity, will do some pretty evil stuff to you if you drop your guard. So the answer to this is not, hey, let's get a state, local, and federalized police force. They'll keep us safe. Has nobody ever heard when seconds count, police are minutes away? It's worthless. Even if they could get there the fastest, they aren't going to arrive until after the crime has been committed against you. So what do? You arm yourself. You strengthen yourself.
And the only way we're going to do something about it is if we actually enforce the law and hold people accountable.
Well, that's not the answer. Enforcing the law? How about swiftly taking care of criminal activity? Has nothing to do with enforcing the law. Because when he says enforcing the law, it's completely different than what you're thinking about enforcing the law. For him, enforcing the law is, oh, we caught you with drugs. Well, the politician says you couldn't have drugs. So it's perfectly within the right of the cop to kidnap you and throw you into a rape cage because you had, let's just be crazy about it, 5 pounds of marijuana. Nothing is more useful to the state than the notion that its rule is justified. So they justify their actions because, hey, politicians wrote it down. That's how they got away with prohibition for what, 13 years? They immediately criminalized a whole bunch of people, and who were on board with it? The people who shouldn't have been, the people who took an oath to protect and defend the freedoms, the liberties, the unalienable rights of Americans, the cops. But the cops were the ones who got involved in all the moonshine running, and cops were working for Al Capone, and cops were the ones who were committing criminal activity against people who were just owning and possessing and selling and transporting alcohol. The cops can't be the answer because the cops are too busy being the problem. Now here we go with stop and frisk, which is also called Terry v. Ohio.
Now we've gotten so soft in society that they go, oh, you know, the stop and frisk. You know how many guns got off the street for stop and frisk? You know how many drugs were seized from stop and frisk? Sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes you got to take extreme measures to make a difference.
Sometimes you got to take extreme measures to make a difference. Let's keep it within the context of what he's saying. He's making fun of people who are making fun of stop and frisk, but when you boil down stop and frisk, i.e. Terry v. Ohio, what is it really? Stop and frisk is officer safety trumps individual liberties. In other words, the safety of the officer is paramount. We have to make sure that the officer is safe. We don't care if we have to take away your rights as long as Officer Floyd is safe. Let's listen again to what he says and let it crystallize in your mind exactly how serious this is. Listen to this.
Now we've gotten so soft in society that they go, oh, you know, the stop and frisk. You know how many guns got off the street for stop and frisk?
How many guns do get off the street? It may be illegal to have a gun, but is it immoral to have a gun? Legality does not equal morality. Illegality doesn't equal immorality. I know I keep saying this, but we have to get it down into our spirits. Taking away guns, taking away drugs. Listen to this.
You know how many drugs were seized from stop and frisk?
Did CVS get their drugs seized in stop and frisk? Oh, no. Why? Because they're sanctioned by the government, and the police protect CVS and Rite Aid and Walgreens and Walmart. They didn't get their drugs seized. Seizing drugs is not a virtuous thing. Seizing guns is not a virtuous thing. Stopping and frisking somebody who had not committed a crime is not a virtuous thing. Period. I don't care why you say you're doing it. We're going to keep America safe. This is for the general welfare. I don't care what your excuse is, because it's useful to the state to make those excuses. That's how they justified their rule. So stop and frisk. So he's basically saying Terry v. Ohio, which is officer safety is paramount above all things, is something that should not be condemned. It's something that should be supported. It's something that should be championed. It's something that we should make sure that every cop knows that they can stop and frisk anybody they want to as long as they're keeping Chirac safe. I agree, Chirac is dangerous. I agree, gangs need to go. But the way you do that is empower individuals, not give people an unbridled monopoly on force and power, throw a costume on them, a tin badge, have them juggle like a bunch of clowns, and just be the conformists we all know that they are. Conformity is doing what you're told regardless of what is right, which is exactly what every cop does, and that's the mindset of Brandon Tatum. Just do what you're told regardless of what is right. When I tell you to get out of the car, you just comply. When I tell you to get on the ground, when I tell you to spread your legs, when I tell you to empty your pockets, when I shake you down, you need to comply. Because that's what your 15,000 hour indoctrination program told you. Just do what you're told. Well, just doing what you're told is how you lay out the welcome mat for tyranny. Come on, Stalin. Come on, Pol Pot. Come on, Mao Zedong. Come on, just take everything from us. Here's the welcome mat. We're just going to do everything that you said because what you say must be right. And I'll make sure that I don't resist at all, and I'll just fight my battles in court, like you say, and I'll just be a good little boy and just do everything that you say, cross my T's and dot my I's.
And when they don't stop and frisk, what do you got? They just out there doing their thing.
It's not about, God, talk about putting your cart before the horse. If you want to make sure that everything goes smooth in society, then you drop the barriers to society and you get out there and you make an announcement and you go, I don't care what you politicians scribble down on pieces of paper. I don't care what you law enforcers think you're doing. I'm going to empower myself. I'm going to become a strong individual. I'm going to teach my family to be strong individuals. We are collectively going to get together and have our community become strong individuals, non-ignorant individuals, people who want to be free. If you want to be free, stop being ignorant. Stop listening to this nonsense. Stop saying, well, we need somebody else to fight our battles for us. Just slap a costume on him. The pigs will save us. Won't you save us pigs? Flashbang, boom. Your dog's dead, boom. Randy Weaver's wife is shot in the head while she's holding her infant, boom. Yeah, they're going to save you. We're from the government, and we're here to help.
When you defund the police, demoralize the police, and dehumanize the police, what do? They back off. Now look at the crime rate.
The crime rate. It's true. If you take a man with a gun out of the equation, if you take the potential for punishment out of the equation, if you have politicians writing a bunch of laws saying you can steal $950 worth of merchandise, if it's $949, we're going to let you go. You're not even going to have to go to jail. We're not going to prosecute you. And then you got everything going into the poop hole in San Fran shithole. Yeah, of course. But that's not because of a lack of cops. That's because of a lack of will on the part of society who did not arm themselves because they're scared of the politicians and the law enforcers. See, it doesn't really matter what the law enforcers write down on pieces of paper as long as there are no enforcers to enforce it. But because we have enforcers to enforce it, now we got to worry about, oh my God, I hope they don't see me carry this firearm in the post office. I hope they don't see that I'm willing to defend myself in the bank and save the bank teller. There's one, I can't remember if it was Chicago or Washington, D.C., but there was somewhere where a homeowner was trying to repel a home invader, and it was illegal for that person to have a firearm. The person got in trouble for saving their lives and the lives of their family by shooting the invader. That's nonsense.
Older people, elderly people in the inner cities that they claim they're protecting are getting bludgeoned every single day they out there. They beating them up in the street, robbing them, killing them. Oh, but white supremacy. These are people that live in their own community doing that to them. These young black people ain't thinking about, oh man, my sisters and brothers in the struggle. No, they don't care. They robbing these old people. They don't care.
They don't care. People
live in a utopia. They don't care. In the hood, they don't care about you being black. There ain't no love for you. They'll kill you. They'll run up on you and smoke you in broad daylight and don't care.
Yep.
All of that black stuff do not matter when you live in the hood. They are the biggest threat to you.
Does anybody in the room, let's see how many people are in here. Does anybody in the room live in the hood? Do they live in an area in an inner city that is super riddled with crime and you got to deal with that stuff every day? Just put a yes in the room if you do live in a really, really bad high crime area.
Other black people, if you live in the hood. It ain't no code to say, oh man, I ain't gonna hurt my brother, but if a white guy comes to, no, bro, they killing each other every day. Young black men are taking each other's lives on gang initiation stuff.
That's true.
All you gotta do is look up Chirac. They got Chicago gang wars that's unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable. They're tallying up how many kills they got, different gangs, doing drive-bys, retaliating. Every night kids are dying in the street.
Yeah, it was interesting. There was an initiation thing that I heard about when I lived in Lancaster, California around 2003, 2004. I don't think it's a new thing. It's just, it was new to me back then. There was a gang initiation where people would just walk up to cops and blindside them and ambush them and just shoot them, or just wait till they, were alone, and they would just harass them or shoot their tires out or drop a brick from an overpass or something like that. And there was a big initiation on that. They would drive around town with their lights off, and if the first person, the rules of the initiation were the first person who blinks their lights to say, hey man, you got to turn your lights on for safety or whatever, they would whip it around and they would go after that person. I'm just talking about non-law enforcement people, but they also targeted the LA County Sheriff's Department, the local police department, and it was this gang initiation ritual that was it's just sick and demented. I don't know what it's going to take for people to go, you know what? I'm not going to wait for the police. I'm not going to wait for the politicians to make a law. I am going to strengthen myself. I mean, screw all this other stuff. I'm going to turn off the TV. I'm going to look at some YouTube videos. How do I handle a firearm? What firearm should I handle? Go out to the range and find out what kind of recoil I can expect if I ever have to defend myself. That's the kind of stuff that you want to do. Should I take that? Should I take that jiu-jitsu class so that if I get disarmed, I can take care of myself on that front? It's just, it's amazing to me that Iron Man Metal, thanks for being a member for 3 months there. I appreciate it. My truck broke into, neighbor's car was stolen in Philly. Yeah, it's a funny feeling. It's a funny feeling when you get your car broken into and your keys stolen, or somebody you come into your house and it's like, whoa, somebody's been in my house. You get in your car and it's like things are all over the place. Yeah, it's a funny feeling. It's like, okay, we got to do something about this. And these people are gonna sit here and wait for the government, and police are government, guys. They are government officials on government business, and government business has nothing to do with securing your rights. Oh yes, sometimes they may look like they're doing that, but for the most part, they're not serving and protecting. They're harassing and collecting. They're filling the coffers of the state. The state is getting strong and powerful, and they're getting all the weapons and all the money while they're stealing from you. It's like, can you imagine having an occupation, i.e. law enforcement, where when they're giving out your check, it's like, this is because the reason you got this is because we ripped off a whole bunch of people. You can thank the American tax cattle, or the tax cattle in your county. You are basically living off of, in the words of Top Shelf Anarchy, Val Venus, stolen loot.
Innocent bystanders. But the politicians don't care. They don't care. They rather sell you a bill of goods than actually fix the problem. They rather get the masses to donate to them and get you to think that it's police that are the problem. But people in the city know that it ain't the police. And they don't get no representation by anybody.
Did you hear that?
They rather get the masses to donate to them and get you to think that it's police that are the problem. But people...
Guys, how many stories do we have to hear? Forget about the Trayvon Martins. Let's talk about the Daniel Shavers. Let's talk about the Philando Castiles. Get out your, show me that you can have a firearm. And he's reaching for his wallet. Boom, 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 boom. What about the James Boyds? There's so many people. What about the Johnny Wheatcrofts minding his own business, sitting in the passenger side of the car, and he gets tased in the private parts in front of his children while his children are screaming and being psychologically tormented by these cops. And I think that was in Arizona, Glendale, Arizona. I can't remember. Somebody refresh my memory. What police department? Because I don't want to get the wrong police department. And in the state where Johnny Wheatcroft was basically summarily tormented and tortured in front of his family, his two little kids and his wife. So to say that the solution to the problem is the greater problem, which he doesn't call police the greater problem. I mean, think about Eric Garner. You know what Eric Garner's crime was in New York when that cop choked him to death? He was selling single count cigarettes to people who wanted them. He wasn't forcing anybody to do anything. He wasn't being belligerent to anybody. He wasn't threatening anybody. If they wanted to buy a cigarette, they could. If they didn't want to, they would just walk on. That's why Eric Garner lost his life, because he disobeyed the city code. How much more is a cop going to choke you out or come through your door and shoot you in the head if you, for God forbid, disobey a political drug or gun law? The Eric Garner thing didn't have anything to do with drugs or guns. And this is the guy right here who said, that's why I call him Brandon Soften Him Up Tatum, because on that video, he doesn't have a problem with, endorses and applauds an older man straddling a younger kid and just pummeling his chest, saying, soften him up. I don't have a problem with him softening him up. At least he didn't hit him in the face. He could have caused that kid to go into cardiac arrest. If you hit somebody in the chest just right, you can mess with the rhythm of the heart and you can throw somebody into cardiac arrest. I don't care how young they are. That's why you don't do CPR on somebody who's conscious and breathing, because you can throw everything off and you can actually kill him. But he's for softening him up as long as that adult who's pummeling that kid, abusing that kid in broad daylight on camera, is wearing a costume and a badge. I got a serious problem with that. Les Hicks says, as long as the other gangs don't mess with the Yellow Lion Gang. Yellow Lion Gang. The Yellow Lion Gang won't mess with their rivals. That's why they run rampant. And you got to remember that, Tatum, cops can never violate the Constitution. They're all heroes. Blech. Brandon Tatum, if you are watching this video, you can call me an idiot all you want, or we can have a dialogue. We can have a discussion, because what you have to do here, and you can call this virtue signaling or whatever, we have to do the right thing. We have to do the moral thing. And the moral thing is not to give power which corrupts individuals into the hands of police departments called police forces so they can be law enforcers for politicians. That's not going to help clean things up. If that was going to clean things up, then Chicago would have been cleaned up under Al Capone, but the cops started getting in on it. They wanted their cut. See, that's the problem with governments, is that they limit competition. And then when they keep you from doing something you have a perfect right to do because you're a free human moral agent in the first place, they eliminate the competition by declaring, for this example, alcohol illegal. Well, obviously, there's still going to be a demand for alcohol, and somebody's going to have to fill that demand. And whoever chooses to fill that demand will be seen by the state as criminals. And of course, everything that they're going to do is going to be undercover, because they don't want the people who are under the delusion that running alcohol is wrong and it's immoral and it's evil and we got to punish them. They don't want to be caught by those people. So obviously, there's going to be some unfortunate collateral damage. There are going to be people that are going to die in the process, because now you got gang wars. Now you got the gang who's willing to supply the alcohol to a thirsty public. And then you got another gang who's the rival of this gang. And now you got gunfire, and you got Tommy guns getting out, and you got people being blown away in the streets. And that didn't even have to be. If alcohol wasn't illegal, those deaths would never have occurred. You wouldn't have had the rise of crime bosses. You wouldn't have all this drug running right now if everybody could grow hemp or cannabis in their backyard. By the way, it's another thing. Hemp, non-THC hemp, what if farmers could grow that? Do you know how valuable that crop is? Why aren't we growing it everywhere? Why aren't backyards and residential neighborhoods filled with that stuff? It's good for ropes. It's good to make, external shells for airplanes and cars. There's so many applications I can't even think of them. There's thousands, tens of thousands of applications for non-THC hemp. But what does the government do in the 1940s? They tell you you can't grow it. And if we catch you growing it, then you're a criminal and you're going to go to jail. Unbelievable. Unfrickin' believable. Idea's so good, we got to force them on the general public. All right, guys. That's it. I'm not calling Brandon Tatum names. I'm only speaking the truth. When I call him Brandon, soften him up, Tatum, that comes from him. He's okay with softening kids up. He's okay with child abuse as long as it's a cop who's doing it. He's okay with tyranny. He's okay with Terry v. Ohio, that officer safety takes precedence over your individual rights, so where they can stop you on the street if they suspect you might be committing a crime. Where's reasonable articulable suspicion? Throw that out the door. No, under pressing times, we can remove your freedoms from you. How about teaching people in school? And this isn't an endorsement on public school by any means, because why is public school wrong? One reason. Number one, we can't afford it. Number two, it's theft. You're stealing from populations, a big part of that population that doesn't even have kids and don't even have kids in school. You're stealing from people so you can fund a subpar education where it's basically an indoctrination camp. That's what's wrong with it. What's wrong with forgiving student loan debt? It's immoral. Why? Because it's theft. What's wrong with sending weapons to Ukraine? It's wrong. Why is it wrong? Because it's theft. Theft is wrong. It will always be wrong. And you can make up any excuse in the book to try to convince me that it's right, but it's still theft. What's wrong with your police force? It's supported and endorsed and funded by theft. Saying that you're for the police is saying, I'm okay with theft as long as it's going to make society better. How in the world does theft make society better? It doesn't. It won't ever. You want to talk about demoralizing? You're demoralizing society by endorsing theft. Here's the rest of this.
People in the city know that it ain't the police, and they don't get no representation by anybody. Hope they vote different. These Democrats.
There you go.
These people, they just run your city down. All of that social justice initiative, they are not in tune with the people.
Guess who else is not in tune with the people? Police. Conformist, law enforcers who have no moral compass and they have no integrity, and they'll just do what the politician said because the politician said it, and that's how the police force is trained. You're not gonna create a righteous society by infiltrating it with unrighteous law enforcers who are funded by theft, as they obey the politicians and could give a damn about you. So, thanks for this, guys. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the support. I appreciate you guys being in here. There's 301 likes. Please hit the like button right now. If you leave before you do it, you'll forget. I do sometimes. If you hit the like button, that really helps with the algorithms. Like, subscribe, share this video. Get on my email list through highimpactflix.com, my website. There's a bunch of free stuff over there you can tinker around with. And there's something else. I can't remember. Oh, yeah, this video is brought to you by McDeath's Eat Fast, Die Young. But you can no longer get this shirt because it was banned by Teespring and by Spreadshirt. So, but there's 100 other designs you can get, and that'll support the channel. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Share this video. I will see you guys in the next live stream. Take care.